Hey there, I'm the MadCatster. Am I glad to see you here? Well, you may remember the infamous TikTok psychic who claimed she had solved a crime which ended the lives of 4 University of Idaho students last November. Well, she ended up getting into some trouble and a defamation lawsuit was brought in federal court against her. Well, there's been some developments. I've got the deets and all the receipts, so buckle up and let's go. Sybil is upstairs taking a nap, but I'm here with Cedric. Cedric says, please like and subscribe. Cedric, say hi. We'd really appreciate it. Also, before we get started, I would like to thank Emma H., who bought me a coffee. I would like to thank Jamie, who bought me 3 coffees. And I would like to thank Not Anonymous, who bought me 5 coffees in this past week. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. The link's down below for the coffees, which are the only thing that's for me. And then there's also the cat's wish list on Amazon. But let's talk about what's going on with this bananas TikTok psychic. So last night I got a call from YouTuber Tozy, who I like very, very much. And he brought to my attention that he had heard that there were some developments in that TikTok psychic defamation case. So we logged on to the federal court website and I took a look, and sure enough, there had been a motion to dismiss the bizarre counterclaims of the TikTok psychic, Ashley Gillard, who made over 100 TikToks claiming basically that she had solved the untimely deaths of these 4 students and that she knew the whole story and began to spin this bizarre sort of fan fiction is the only way I can describe it, where every day, sometimes more than once a day, she basically, it was like almost like she was writing a novel. She had this psychic vision that, you know, there was this professor at the University of Idaho who had an illicit relationship with one of the students, and that the professor had hired someone basically to put out a hit on that student, and it ended up that 4 students lost their lives tragically, and it just was really, really bizarre. Okay, and the police, after this happened, not too long afterwards, they did apprehend a suspect, and the police determined basically that he was working alone and that it was a really tragic, senseless crime that unfortunately took the lives of 4 innocent people. Now, the crime didn't just affect those 4 students. It affected their families, their friends, their classmates, the faculty and staff, I'm sure, of the university, and it made news all over the country. Everyone was relieved, I think, that they apprehended the suspect, and I think everyone thought, well, now justice can proceed. So hopefully this absolute sociopath will end up spending his life in jail, or maybe worse, I don't know, and people could get closure and move on. Well, Ashley Gillard, the so-called TikTok psychic, had different ideas. She thought that she had this otherworldly vision and was getting this like psychic information that no, it was Rebecca Schofield, the professor who apparently didn't even know any of the students, who had done this. And she spun this wild yarn about everything that happened and going into like sometimes excruciating detail, so that, I don't know, some people might have thought maybe she knew something that the police didn't, but turns out, nope, that's not the case. So Rebecca Schofield, the professor, understandably was extremely upset. I mean, I think anybody would be in her position, to suddenly have this stranger on TikTok making these bizarre claims that you were involved in the deaths of 4 students. So Rebecca Schofield did what any normal person would do. She contacted Ashley Gillard and she said, please stop. None of this is true. Where are you getting these crazy ideas from? I'm not involved in any way, shape, or form. You're hurting my reputation. You're smearing my name in the media and on social media. Stop it. Ashley Gillard, nope, refused to stop, just kept right on going. And so finally, out of frustration, Rebecca Schofield filed a defamation case in federal court in Idaho, which she had the right to do. Ashley Gillard did not respond in time, so Rebecca Schofield's lawyers moved to have a default judgment entered against Ashley Gillard. Well, of course, when Ashley got notice that they had asked for a default, she suddenly contacted the court and filed her answer with the court and asked the court not to enter the default. And the court, because as courts do, Ashley Gillard is pro se. She is not represented by an attorney. not a smart thing, especially in this kind of a case. The courts will usually give a lot of leeway to a pro se defendant. They granted her motion. The default did not enter. Ashley Gillard filed her answer, which you have to do. But as you can do in any lawsuit, she also filed a bunch of really bizarre counterclaims. And a counterclaim, as I've explained before, and you guys who haven't seen me before, I am a real lawyer. I practice law every single day. I'm in court most days. But when you file your answer, you can file what is called a counterclaim. And counterclaims are basically you're countersuing the plaintiff who's suing you. And it can all be done within the same lawsuit. So you don't have to, as a defendant, you don't have to file a separate lawsuit. So Ashley Gillard made these counterclaims. And of course, anybody who looked at them thought, are you kidding me? What are you on? And so Rebecca Schofield's lawyers, of course, filed a motion to dismiss. I'm going to show you what the argument was, part of it. There's so much to these documents. I'm not going to go into all the details, but I'm just going to read you like the best bits. They filed their motion, made their argument. There was a hearing held. The judge took it under advisement and wrote a very long opinion. And basically, as you'll see in a minute, the judge really basically ripped Ashley Gillard a new one. And we'll talk about her ruling in just a second. So let's look at the motion to dismiss. Here's the motion, and they said that defendant Ashley Gillard has filed 11 frivolous counterclaims alleging that the plaintiff Rebecca Schofield had an inappropriate affair with a student, ordered the deaths of 4 students, and conspired with her attorneys, to sue Gillard for defamation, to evade suspicion, this is a quote, to evade suspicion, obstruct justice, and to avoid criminal investigation. In support of her claims, Gillard says her spiritual research into the murders at the University of Idaho intuitively led to the University of Idaho History Department. Okay, that, I don't quite understand how that connection happened, but Ashley Gillard, who says, then spiritually inquired. So I guess she's got like a hotline to the afterlife or got out her Ouija board. I don't know. She spiritually inquired into each person everybody listed on the History Department's webpage. And her insight for Rebecca Schofield revealed that she was in a relationship with, and she names the student, but I'm not going to say the name, that broke up, and that Rebecca Schofield then initiated the ending of the student's life. And it said not only did she planned the crime, but she hired help to carry it out. And then the attorney says, in other words, Gillard made up the whole story, which, I mean, clearly, unless she can prove that she has a connection to the afterlife, that there's some spirit investigator who's giving her this information. It says Gillard's claims all fail because they rely on implausible, and to say the least, and factually deficient allegations. The claims also fail to properly allege the pertinent legal elements. So in other words, the law requires certain things in order for you to prove a claim. And they're saying Ashley Gillard didn't do that. And when you look at them, I don't know whether she got stuff off the internet or what, but clearly her arguments were not correct. And then it says that Gillard should not be allowed to use this court as a platform to make frivolous allegations to continue her shameless self-promotion at the expense of Professor Schofield's reputation and peace of mind and the victim's memories, which is equally, if not more important. And so they want the court to dismiss all 11 counterclaims, and they ask the court for attorney's fees. So, of course, once this motion was filed, Ashley Gillard responded. And I'll just read you a little bit of what she had to say in her defense, why the court should not dismiss the counterclaims, and it's a lot of you-know-what. And I'm just going to read little bits here because I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. So what Ashley argues, and this is true, when the court considers a motion to dismiss, they need to construe the facts in the most favorable light to the party whose claims the motion is seeking to dismiss. So the other side's claims. So basically, you don't want to dismiss something that really should go to trial to decide whether there's actually a merit to the claims. And Ashley's basically saying that. This is what really gets me. If you look here, not only has she said all of this horrible stuff, but she restates it all again in her opposition to the motion to dismiss. And I'll just look at this little bit where she says, Rebecca Schofield planned, initiated, ordered, and executed the demise of 4 University of Idaho students on November 13th, 2022. And she went undetected by the Moscow Police, that's the town, by the Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, and FBI detectives who were assigned to the case. So she basically hid in the shadows from all of these skilled and experienced law enforcement professionals. And it said that Ashley Gillard used her psychic abilities, spiritual acuity, and investigative skills. Apparently, she's more skilled than the FBI, to uncover the motive and details that led to the deaths of the student. She posted her findings on social media and reported it to the FBI tip line. Clearly, she must be mentally ill. And I'm saying that in all seriousness. She must be mentally ill, because it does not make sense why any rational person would take something this far. And it says, to stop Ashley Gillard from being taken seriously and to silence her, Rebecca Schofield and her attorneys filed a lawsuit against Ashley Gillard with 2 frivolous claims for defamation. Rebecca Schofield initiated the lawsuit with full knowledge that she was responsible for the deaths of the 4 students, with the intent to embarrass, harass, humiliate, and discredit Ashley Gillard. I'm not going to read it anymore because it's so stomach turning. Basically, she's saying, well, it's all true. And of course, the only evidence that she points to in any of this is her psychic ability and her intuition. And it's like, well, I hate to break it to her. And, I'm making light of some of this, but we're not talking about the actual crime. So please don't think I'm taking the situation lightheartedly. I'm not at all. It absolutely makes me sick and upset to think about what happened to these poor kids. But what I'm making fun of is the fact that this nut job, in my opinion, is actually believing that she's setting out an argument that proves her facts, because it's just nonsense. So basically what she's saying is Rebecca Schofield and her attorneys are defaming her, and they're suing her to shut her up, basically. Well, yes, they are, but not for the reason that Ashley Gillard thinks. Now, in their motion to dismiss these counterclaims, this is a standard thing that attorneys do. But basically, Rebecca Schofield's attorneys say that they should also get attorney's fees because basically the claims are frivolous and they've had to take the time now to argue to get them dismissed. Courts rarely will grant attorney's fees for a motion that's during the process of litigation like this. If you win, oftentimes they'll grant you your attorney's fees, but they usually won't for something that's basically part of the normal course of litigation. So the court did not grant the legal fees. But let's take a look at what the court had to say about Miss Ashley Gillard and her psychic acuity. Here is the judge's decision. Now, this thing is I think it's 23 pages long. I'm only going to read you the most interesting bits. I'm not going to go through all, she goes through all the factual and procedural background and the legal arguments. We're going to skip over all of that because I don't want to bore you. And let's just skip to the, I don't want to say good part, but the most interesting part. So the judge says, defendant's counterclaims against the plaintiff are factually implausible. So the court is agreeing with Rebecca Schofield's attorneys. And this is what the judge says. Defendant responds to plaintiff's defamation claims against her, that's Ashley Gillard, responds by going on the offensive, which she basically did. As I was reading to you what she's re-alleging all of this crap again, attacking again Rebecca Schofield, alleging that the claims, as well as statements made by plaintiff's counsel to the media about the claims, basically her attorneys had said to the media, this is all nonsense. And so Ashley's saying, oh, no, it wasn't nonsense, so you defamed me. Ashley's saying that those statements are themselves defamatory and brought by plaintiff to systematically deprive defendant of her constitutional right to free speech and due process. And she goes on to talk about how the counterclaims presume and depend upon an alternate version of events surrounding the deaths of the 4 students. Namely, that plaintiff orchestrated the crime and colluded with her counsel to bring the action against defendant to silence her. The judge now, I think, is, as the British would say, taking the piss, because she says that the plaintiff orchestrated the crime and then colluded with her counsel to bring this action against defendant to silence her clairvoyant insight into the true extent of plaintiff's involvement. And the judge says, the problem with this theory, however, is that there is no objective basis to believe that plaintiff did the things that defendant publicly and repeatedly claims she did. Defendant insists her intuitive abilities, spiritual acuity, and investigative skills into the murders led her to the plaintiff. And the judge says, significantly, only defendant has these opinions about plaintiff. The court is unaware of similar claims from any other sources or the existence of any independent evidence remotely suggesting the same. When pressed for corroboration during oral argument, which during the hearing on the motion to dismiss, defendant merely responded that she believed her allegations about plaintiff were true and that with discovery, she can find evidence to bear this out. Discovery is when each side asks the other side for certain documents or to answer questions to help them, each side, prove their case. Some things aren't discoverable. It has to be like pertinent to the facts in the case. And that with discovery, she Ashley can find evidence that bears this out. So in other words, she doesn't have any evidence, but she thinks if she goes and requests all kinds of stuff from Rebecca, she'll be able to get the evidence that she needs to back up the claims. Well, she shouldn't be making the claims without evidence in the first place. You don't say, you did this and then go try to find the evidence to support it. You have to have a reasonable suspicion that somebody did something. You can't just make it up out of thin air and hope that you throw a dart and it lands on a target. And then she says, defendant also claimed that plaintiff, as a professor at the university, because she's a professor, possibly, and this is, the judge put this in italics, knew the deceased students and was involved in the crime. And the judge says, without more, these explanations do not support a plausible claim for relief, and she cites to a case that's considered like the authority on that. Just to begin, defendant cannot use discovery as a fishing expedition to find facts that might validate her counterclaims. This ready, fire, aim approach is not permitted under the federal rules of civil procedure. Moreover, on a motion to dismiss, courts generally may not consider materials, including discovery, other than a complainant's allegations and documents made part of that complaint. In short, the pleading requirement does not provide a key to unlock the doors of discovery for a plaintiff armed with nothing more than conclusions. Again, a complaint must be plausible on its face, which is what I just said. You can't just make something up, go hunting through documents and ask questions and hope that you're somehow going to miraculously be able to substantiate what you're claiming. Okay, that's not what discovery does. You can't just ask for anything. It has to be pertinent to the facts that you've alleged in your complaint. By what the judge is saying in this decision, I am going to bet you that there is a motion for summary judgment coming not too far in the distant future. Basically, for those of you who don't know, a motion for summary judgment is something that you file with the court before the trial. And basically what you're saying is, we've examined all the facts, we've conducted discovery. After reviewing everything, we don't believe that the other party has a case, and therefore we want the court, without going to trial, to enter judgment in our favor against the other side. Nip it in the bud before you actually get to a full-blown trial. And those types of motions, they're more likely not to succeed on the balance, in my experience, because you really have to have an ironclad evidence and ironclad argument for why a trial is absolutely not going to bear out what the other side is claiming that you basically did. Based on the judge's writing here, it's clear to me the judge has looked at this whole case and goes, this is all BS. There's absolutely nothing here that is meritorious. I guarantee you, coming up in the not too distant future, once the ridiculous discovery is concluded, Rebecca Schofield's attorneys are going to file a motion for summary judgment. There's absolutely not a scintilla of evidence to support what Ashley Gillard has alleged Rebecca Schofield did. It's all fantasy and BS, but there's nothing really to proceed to trial on, in my opinion. I'm going to put my money on Rebecca Schofield's attorneys are going to file a motion for summary judgment, which the court is going to grant. That's going to end the case. They're going to find that Ashley Gillard is liable for defamation, and that they are going to, I'm sure, award significant damages. Unfortunately, as with a lot of these cases, the odds of Rebecca Schofield collecting whatever damages she ends up getting is probably slim to none. And we've talked about this before. Rebecca Gillard, I wouldn't be surprised if she immediately files for bankruptcy, and that would basically make her judgment proof. It's sad, but it's true. Now, whether criminal charges will come out of her interference, Ashley Gillard's interference with the investigation, Rebecca Schofield is getting her day in court. And of course, I believe she's going to prove that Ashley Gillard is absolutely full of shit. Rebecca Schofield really didn't have a choice morally. I mean, this woman is saying this crazy stuff about her, won't stop, even though she's been asked to stop. And what else can you do to stop her and to set the record straight? You have to go through this exercise of a lawsuit. And it's unfortunate because Rebecca Schofield is having to fork over tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees just to fight this nonsense. And then in the end, she's not even going to get anything out of it other than the proof that this was all nonsense. When this is all said and done, Ashley Gillard should really get herself some help because sincerely, I think that she needs it. I hope she does get help. Ashley, please get help. Please stop doing this. Please don't do it to anybody else. I know there are other crimes that she's weighed in on. Please don't do it again. You're just hurting innocent people. It's really a tragedy on both ends that this is happening. But anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say. Please like and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. But thank you guys for the Patreon patrons, your support. Thank you to the channel members also for your support every month, which also is a contribution towards the care of these guys. I hope you guys are having a good end of summer, unfortunately. But I hope you guys will take care of yourselves, love one another, and I will see you in the next one.
Pretty please. Subscribe, like, and hit the bell. I get a treat for every new sub. Thank you.